Just some housekeeping before we get into the topic at hand here today. Once again, a big shout out to my boy Chapin, incredibly generous as always, and a big shout out to you. And at least I got it on the day this time, not a couple of days later. I'm just really terrible when it comes to remembering some stuff, but I got it this time around. And as we know, March is allegedly Women's History Month, and here we have a woman acting up once again, but we'll hold her in check here in a second. But there is a number of different novelty days on today, but these ones are actually worth noting. Like, first and foremost, 3 designations for the day. Obviously, the 16th day of our gynocentric overlords, but it is, in fact, Gary Plausch Day. Now, who's Gary Plausch? A real American, if we're being completely honest. On this day, March 16th, 1984, 6 years before I was born, but 6 years before I was born, a legend was made. On television. This was captured on television, kids. Gary Plausch shot the pedophile in the head who kidnapped and raped his 11-year-old son at the airport in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. Plausch was given no jail and a plea deal. No jury was going to convict him in Baton Rouge, a local prosecutor said. There's a still frame of the video that I think you can still find online. And I, for one, consider today, March 16th, not 13th. We need to remember the day. We need to mark the day that March 16th will be Gary Plausch Memorial Day, as one man, in fact, summarized 316 is henceforth known as Gary Plausch Day, so you too can engage in map hanging activities. What do I mean by that? Who the hell actually knows? But then I take a look at that denotation. 316. That kind of rings a bell. What? And then I take a look at the lady right there, and she reminds me of something else. What? It's 316 day, son. What? My favorite wrestler. And it's a day where we can just have so many laughs at a bunch of people's misfortune. What? So we better mark the day. Crack open some Stave Weiser, son. What? I don't have Stave Weiser, but I got some water here. What? I will toast one out for Stave and Gary. What? Oh, hell yeah. So now that we have all the formalities out of the way, of course, we got to talk about another big bank bailout, because that's the only thing that Joe Biden knows how to do, okay? He doesn't know how to tie his shoes, walk down or upstairs. He doesn't know who he's properly addressing in the speech that somebody else wrote for him and he's delivering. Like, this dude knows absolutely nothing except for to write blank checks and spend your taxpayer dollars. Where is Gary when you need him? Big banks save First Republic with $30 billion rescue plan. That's interesting because First Republic, and I forget the other one, but this one was centered in Arizona, I do believe. We'll check in here right now. It doesn't matter. They're all getting bailed out anyways. Okay, SVB and First Republic, something national. I don't know, just pick 3 generic words out of a hat and you probably got a credit union or a local co-op named after the amalgamation of terms. The nation's largest banks through a sinking First Republic, a $30 billion lifeline on Thursday. See, it's not a government bailout. It's just the regulators deciding to pool together a bunch of other people's money and give it to them so they don't go under. See, it's totally different, guys, to save the troubled lender after the collapse of 2 other regional banks. JP Morgan Chase, Citibank, Bank of America, and Wells Fargo each will contribute $5 billion of deposits as part of the deal, the bank said in a joint press release. Oh, it's so great when all of the giant mega corporations get together and help out the little guy. Isn't it heartwarming? Yuck. Morgan Stanley and Goldman Sachs will each contribute $2.5 billion because they have better lawyers, while BNY Mellon, PNC Bank, State Street, Truist, and U.S. Bank will each pour in $1 billion. This action by America's largest bank reflects their confidence in First Republic. That's why you needed $30 billion to bail them out, because you are very secure in their ability to make smart financial decisions. Makes sense, and it demonstrates their overall commitment to helping banks serve their customers and communities, even though they'll all have a specific interest going forward, and that's just what they bought. So, hey, to each their own, I guess. The banks said in a joint statement. Regionally, mid-sized and small banks are critical to the health and functioning of our financial system. And if we have an opportunity to just flip First Republic into a Citi or a JP Morgan Chase or a Bank of America affiliate, then you know what? Hey, just consider this a down payment. The rescue deal was announced as regulators and bank officials look to bolster confidence in the banking sector following last weekend's collapse of Silicon Valley Bank and Signature Bank, and concerns about Credit Suisse's survival. Interesting, because apparently in after-hours trading or earlier today, market confidence after a big influx of money as well from a bunch of different lenders. It's just funny how they've managed to find money for their friends, but hey, every other time they're just knocking down the door to the poorhouse. But no. In after-hours trading, Credit Suisse, its confidence or its basis points, I forget the specifics when it comes to this stuff, it went up 30 points or 30%. It was some remarkable rebound, which is oh so fantastic, right? Heaven forbid a company that is run by such A-plus individuals would go under. Like, come on, especially when you had people in charge. They look like this. The investment bank director for Credit Suisse, all the way back in 2017. And oh, don't worry, this wasn't a passing fad or anything like that. We're talking about Philip Bunce, who is the same person, those same pictures there, and the same one that's in the thumbnail. Jesus fucking Christ. And you wonder why they all went some parts of the day tits up. Jesus Christ. But yeah, just like what? Blair White and Bailey J. Very passable. Can't even tell the difference. Fucking Christ. MX. The fuck even is that? Philip Bunce is the director at Credit Suisse and has been working in the IT industry for over 25 years. Oh, okay, so at least unlike Silicon Valley Bank, there was somebody even as compromised as this individual that at least had banking experience and they weren't just donators to the local sperm bank and address. She fuck off, has worked for a variety of firms, including Credit Suisse, Goldman Sachs, UBS, British Telecom, and the Bank of England. Yes, of course, it's very difficult. I need to show off my skills. I worked on my curtsy for ever so long. Pips is recognized as a leader and influencer in many fields of diversity and inclusion. Now, this article and this write-up, the other one we can't go back, even back in 2017, all we got is just a little bit. From around the age of 4, I knew I was slightly different. We can tell. I knew that I like to have the stereotypical boy clothes and but equally, I knew I liked princess dresses. Yeah, some people are just built different. And if you can do a good job, whatever you do in your off hours, that's totally fine. But when you bring it into the office and you're in certain high-powered positions, you should probably leave the high heels at the door. Just saying. But it's, yes, a recognized influencer. Oh, boy. For DI policies, has been recognized throughout several prestigious awards, including Financial Times and HIRES. Oh, boy. When is that toe trigger showing up for that shotgun? Female, yes, champions of women in business. Yo, this dude right here won an award for females in business. All right. And FT and outstanding LGBT executive leader and British LGBT awards. How adorable. She, whatever, is a visible and a vocal advocate. Very visible, very... definitely knows how to drum up attention and knows how to engage an audience when he wanders on stage like a Bigfoot sighting. Everybody's just mouth agape going, what? He's in charge. What? Yeah, yes. Visible and vocal advocate in many forms of equality. Not equality. Well, again, this was written a couple years ago, so equality was still being used interchangingly. Now they've just dropped all pretenses, and it's equity at the expense of everybody else, including gender identity, where's the banking stuff coming in, and gender equality. Pips frequently presents at a range of large events, and everybody is equally as uncomfortable, regardless of the size of the audience. And conferences such as the Women of the Square Mile, Diversity in Technology, as well as presenting at venues ranging from other corporates, though to in the Houses of Parliament. Yo, that dude's been to the fucking Parliament. You wonder why they also got bailed out. Fucking hilarious. That's not the only total abomination that's going on at Credit Suisse, okay? The bank lost $5.5 billion on hedge fund run by a wire fraudster. Yo, okay, so they hired a gender fraudster, and then they also got swindled by some fucking Nigerians running a phone scam? What the fuck? And pleaded guilty in tuna bond scam. Sorry, what? Is that what we're calling this? A tuna bond scam. Oh, right, because I guess after a long day's work and you're wearing that pantyhose, it gets stuck to your leg and it kind of smells like tuna. Is that what we're going for? And was convicted in a scheme to launder coke money for a pro wrestler. Wait a minute, what? Do we actually come back to this, son? What? Cocaine, what? It helps me stomp a mud hole. After Credit Suisse said on Thursday it would borrow up to $54 billion from the Swiss central bank to shore up its liquidity. Now, I should have just raised the funds from other idiots in your local area. It seems to work, at least on the other side of the pond. The bank's troubled recent history is once again in the limelight. A string of scandals, repeated shuffles in top management, multi-billion-dollar losses, and strategic mistakes could all be factors in the problems that the 167-year-old Swiss lender now faces. Yo. Sell-off in Credit Suisse's shares began in March of 2021, triggered by a $10 billion impairment and the collapse of UK's Greensills Capital, followed by a $5.5 billion loss associated with the collapse of a U.S. investment fund, Archegos. Was that on the run of GameStonks and all that stuff at the beginning of Joe Biden's presidency when Robinhood decided to yank the carpet underneath of everybody else? That was a fun couple of days. Shit was hilarious. Oh yes, whose manager had pleaded guilty to wire fraud years earlier. Sorry, what? Okay, so somebody who was in charge of a investment fund was also a wire fraudster. You can't make this shit up. Other recent scandals included Credit Suisse's 2021 U.S. guilty plea of the so-called tuna bond fraud and a criminal conviction in Switzerland last year for failing to prevent money laundering by the Bulgarian cocaine trafficking ring. What? This sounds like a plot to a Steven Seagal film. What the fuck are we doing here? This is great. Credit Suisse, headquartered in Zurich, of course, referred to Daily Mail to a statement CEO Ulrich Körner issued earlier Thursday, saying, "My team and I are resolved to move forward rapidly to deliver a simpler and more focused bank built around client needs." I don't know if that's a Swiss accent, but it is a Scandinavian one, so fuck off. Körner also said that the bank's latest moves to boost liquidity in his pants. Demonstrate decisive action to strengthen Credit Suisse as we continue to strategic transformation to deliver value to our clients and other stakeholders, because we don't have shareholders, we have stakeholders. We are a strong bank. We are a global bank under Swiss regulation. We fulfill and basically overshoot all regulatory requirements. Kroner also told Channel News Asia, "We're a Swiss bank. We're a global bank, and I'm talking to an Asian outlet." The fuck? All right. Our capital, our liquidity basis is very strong. Yeah, just don't take a look at any of our recent financial transactions of the people in charge. You might have a different opinion about how strong things are, except for this guy's shoulders. Like, have you seen the way he cuts the suit? Anyways, here is how Credit Suisse's missteps and scandals have played out in recent years. Well, let's take a look. So March 2023. Here we are, Credit Suisse stock falls to an all-time low. Might get a clear up on when everything rebounded. 2022 annual report on Tuesday identified material weaknesses. Oh, okay, I guess just realizing that cotton and fishnets kind of clash a little bit in internal conflicts over financial reporting. The bank also said customer outflows. Do I need to make another cutaway gag? Is this an episode of Family Guy? Had stabilized, but had not yet reversed. The Swiss bank's shareholders dropped by as much as 30% Wednesday after its largest shareholder, Saudi national banks, like that shit is... They figured out who was in charge of this shit and they just decided, Abdul, get the rocks. This shit is super fucking haram. Could not provide any more support because of regulatory constraints. Although the chairman of SNB expressed confidence in Credit Suisse, Calling it a very strong bonk, shares of Swiss banks plunged to an all-time record low. In response, Credit Suisse secured $54 billion lifeline from Swiss Central Bank to shore up its liquidity, the first major global bank to get emergency funding since the 2008 financial crisis. And then that ended up leading to the massive rebound in the stocks. And don't worry, everything is totally fine. It's not like we have a long storied history of fucking everything up. Ulrich Kohner replaces Thomas Gottstein. Oh, that's interesting. Once again, you have a German-sounding name coming in and conquering somebody who's got a position held by somebody that has a Steen or Berg at the end of the name. Interesting. Where have we heard that before? Credit Suisse has struggled with management churn in recent years. You don't say! With the latest example coming last summer, when CEO Thomas Gottstein was replaced by asset manager expert Ulrich Kohner. Pressure had been mounting on Gottstein for months over scandals and losses racked up during his 2-year tenure. Just 2 years, huh? Very interesting. Yo, take a look at that. But okay, yeah, that's a 5-year curve. The shares started off at $16.65 and then they just ended up their all-time $2.16. Time to buy in, that's for true. When Gottstein took the helm in 2020, he promised a clean slate for the bank, which was recovering from an internal spying scandal that cost his predecessor Tijane Thiam? I'm sure it's not Thiam, but close enough. I got one of the two, somewhere in the middle, more than likely. But during Gottstein's tenure, the company's stock dropped nearly 60%, and troubles at the bank only escalated. Gottstein, a 23-year bank veteran. Isn't it funny? Whenever these guys have any sort of experience, it's right there in that 20 to 30 year range. It's almost like that's the go-to when it comes to, hey, what's your experience? I've been around for a couple decades, couple or three, something like that. Just don't look. Just trust me, though, bro. And I cited personal and health-related considerations. Well, how about tanking the stock? That's a pretty personal issue, I guess. Weighing on his move, the other hand, or to hand control to Kohner. Upon his departure, Credit Suisse also announced a new strategic review that, among other things, aimed to lower costs. Yeah, I wanted to get to this, okay? Cocaine-related money laundering. Yo! Former employee was also found to be money laundering in the Swiss trial, which included testimony of murder and cash stuffed into suitcases. This is fucking juicy. Credit Suisse disputed the illegal origin of the money. Former Bulgarian professional wrestler Evelyn Banev. The last name looks very familiar. Must have just seen it somewhere else before. Did a little bit of off-screen research and nothing spectacular about him. Banev did not face charges in Switzerland, but was convicted in Italy of drug trafficking. Alright, in 2017. And in Bulgaria in 2018 for money laundering. Ooh, that would suck. Oh, what would you rather take? Italian jail? Definitely over Bulgarian jail. That's an easy choice. He was again arrested in September of 2021 in Ukraine. Interesting how he's running from these different places. As countries including Bulgaria and Romania, wait a minute, what? Okay, sought his arrest. He's kind of got the side profile of Perez Hilton. Kind of fucking weird. All right. Oh, and he also used to get paid to be beat up by men, so actually that makes sense. Banev has previously insisted that he is the target of corrupt and politically motivated prosecutions. Oh, is he the original guy to say that the Matrix is after him? Listen, free Top G and all that stuff, it's jokes at the end of the day. Through his attorney, he denied any involvement in money laundering at Credit Suisse. Yeah, that's nice, but we're done with the cocaine money, I guess. Ex-Georgian PM wins $500 million in Bermuda trial. Sorry, what? That reads like he won the lottery and the bank was having to pay this out? The fuck? Bermuda court ruled in March of 2022 that former Georgian Prime Minister Bidzina Ishvili, and his family were due damages, emotional damages, of more than $500 million from Credit Suisse's local life insurance arm. Sorry, what? Is everybody still alive? Why the life insurance? Okay. The court said Ivanishvili, which also sounds like an Austin Powers villain surname, and his family were due the damages as a result of a long-running fraud committed by former Credit Suisse advisor Pascal Lecadron. All right. Client of Credit Suisse between 2005 and 2015. Yo, he looks like he threw Erdogan in a dehydrator for about 15 minutes. Interesting. Ivanishvili alleged he racked up hundreds of millions in losses due to forged trades made by Geneva-based private banker Lescadron, appointed to handle his investments in 2006. Interesting. And it took him until 2015 to figure all this stuff out. Very interesting. Not a very smart guy. I guess that's why he's ex-Prime Minister of Georgia. Credit Suisse pleads guilty in tuna bond fraud. This is where we're going to wrap this one up, because the rest of this, it just kind of sounds like, corrupt idiots up at the top. Okay, so we got the Coke and the professional wrestler out of the way, and now this tuna bond fraud. I must have been out of the loop on this one. Credit Suisse pleaded guilty to defrauding investors in connection with a $850 million loan to Mozambique meant to pay for a tuna fishing fleet. The bank agreed to pay U.S. and British regulators $475 million to settle the case under the deal announced in October of 2021. About $200 million of the loan went to kickbacks to Credit Suisse bankers, of course it did, and Mozambican government officials, according to the plea agreement. All right. The bank's British subsidiaries in 2013 arranged 2 loans guaranteed by Mozambique's government totaling $1 billion, equally to nearly 6% of the country's economic output. Are you having a laugh? To state-owned companies Pro Indicus and Empresa Mocambian de Atum, or EDAM. All right. Swiss regulators said the loans were mostly intended to be used to pay for the maritime security vessels and a tuna fleet. Okay. The bank was aware of the huge shortfalls between the funds raised and the value of the boats, but failed to disclose this to investors when the loan was restructured in 2016. Several people in the African country, including former government officials, were accused of bribery, embezzlement, and money laundering related to the loans. It kind of seems like that checks out. Credit Suisse also arranged a loan that would keep secret from the International Monetary Fund. Yes, the IMF. Well, they get points for, trying to skirt the IMF because they are super corrupt. When Mozambique admitted to $1.4 billion, where's the other $400 million coming from? In undisclosed loans, the IMF pulled its support, sending the southern African country economically into a tailspin. Yo, so this bank has been responsible for the soft overthrowing of nations. They had a cross-dresser on the panel. Still there. Very, very interesting. Geo, yeah, the rest of this stuff is just run-of-the-mill idiocy. It really just paints a complete picture that Credit Suisse was going to fail at one point or another. All of this shit totally makes sense. The fact that they were involved with a bunch of different governments, just shortchanging them as well, and, cocaine, money laundering, blaming the collapse on a bank on a Jew. Like, it all totally makes sense, right? At least from their perspective. But hey, hey man, this 164-year-old institution is going to remain. And you know who's still going to be there at the end of the day? Our good friend Pips. And you know what? As long as they're diverse, that's all that matters. So, happy Gary Plouch Day. Happy 316, son. Happy Austin Day. Or just happy Thursday, y'all. So with all that said, thank you all very much for the gift of your time. I've been Don Consuelo. I want you to follow your gut and get after it. Take care, everyone.